trim clips, they can be a little bit tricky to get in. These are one of the easier types, with them being fir tree types, so you literally just push them and they go in. They do have a little stalk on the end, and that does help because when you take the trim off, you have these little round holes, so when you have your... already lost it. There we go. So yeah, when you have your trim clip, that little nubbin guides it into that little hole there. So when you're getting everything in place, it makes your life a tiny bit easier. So your first challenge when you're putting trims in is you have to find where all your little trim holes are. So push the trim in, and usually you can see the hole on the back that you need to get to, and that allows you to put the trim into the hole and push it home. I can't actually record this and do this at the same time because there isn't enough space, and as soon as I set the camera up I'm in my own way, so I will bring you back when this is done. There we go. There's just two on the back trim, which are those two there, and then that one just to the right of the seat belt is the back one on the front trim. I think these would have benefited from being slightly longer, or the carpet being a bit more worn out. And driver's side ones, the top of the driver's side is held in with the bonnet release. It's a bit difficult to show you the rest because the seat's in the way. On the passenger side you can just see that top button that holds that trim in, and then there's a couple more down the side of the seat that I can't show you because the seat's in the way. So that is a good chunk of the trim that's been bugging me in the car fixed. I would still like a slightly nicer dashboard, but it's not the end of the world. I mean, I've noticed these cracks, I'll have a look back at other videos, but at least to me they don't seem quite as bad as when the car arrived, so that's something, but I don't think I can fix this. I think it needs recovering. It's been raining. I mean, it's always raining, but it's been raining and the Maestro is not fogged up. In fact, since the last round of repairs, it hasn't fogged up, it hasn't really let any water in. Well, I say it hasn't let any water in, it clearly has. So that's a mite annoying. The thing it has been doing is shedding little bits of rust from the tailgate. And the reason it's been doing that is I took off the seal that goes around the inside of the tailgate window, and I found a big piece of rust there. I'll show you from the inside, it's a bit easier to see. So on the inside of the screen on the Maestro there's a rubber seal which goes all the way around the inside of the glass. And I was finding that after doing the last round of drying everything out, this had started to flap loose. And one day it was hanging off and I noticed some rust. So I think that's probably where a lot of the water's coming through. So I need to get this, I've just been waiting for it to be dry so I can do it, but I need to get all of this cleaned back and probably sealed from this side because I think it's just coming through with the glass and into the car. Can't do much about that bit of rust damage there, unfortunately. The welder's still out of action. And it's going to be for a while. It looks like I'm going to have to replace it, so that's pricey. Yeah, this going in the boots, down my sleeve. There's all bits of the tailgate that are stuck in this seal. So I had a quick look around to see where that water was coming from, and I could trace it straight back to the tailgate. So I'm pretty sure, given that the rest of the car is completely bone dry, that the issue is the fact that the tailgate is basically doing its best to turn into cornflakes. So I will clean everything up as best I can, and I'm keeping an eye out for a better tailgate. That's quite poor. Yeah. Bring you up here and show you. Where the worst of the rust is here, unlike most surfaces, this area here that's particularly bad is very wet. So I think what's happening is the water's coming in from the outside, getting past where the bond has failed here. So my plan is a bodge, because I don't have the means to do it properly, is I'm going to clean off as much of this rust as I can. I'm then going to rust treat it, and then I'm going to paint it, which probably sounds ridiculous, and then I'm going to get the Arbomast in, and I'm going to seal all along this edge. It's not going to stop it permanently, but it should stop it until I can at least get a new tailgate. So if you know anybody that has a tailgate that isn't rusty here, do let me know. That would be very useful. Other than that, we're not getting any water getting in the car, so I'll clean all this lot out. And I could literally trace it from that point down the back of the tailgate, down this panel, down here, and into where the water was pooling. So I'm really confident that's what the problem is. Everywhere else, all the other suspect areas are completely dry. Like over here, that spot, just there's nothing there at all. So I checked under the front carpets, they're nice and dry. So I'm fairly confident that's the last water leak. I've been waiting for the rain to finish so that I can get the last of this sealing up done. I've got all the materials ready to go, and it's just been raining and raining and raining. It's finally stopped. We've had a couple of dry days. It's threatening to close in again, so I think come tomorrow it's going to be raining, so this is probably the only gap I'm going to get. I finally figured out where the last point of water ingress is on this car. Everything else, as you've seen in the other videos, has been sealed up, and the last bit is one I can't do much about, so I'm going to have to bodge it a tiny bit. But not a big deal, sometimes that's the way these things go. I'm on the lookout for a better tailgate so that I can repair this one, and that will then cure it, hopefully. The one nice thing is the inside of the car is staying completely dry. I've not had any steaming up of the windows, I've not had any soggy carpets, I've not had any damp seats, so it's much better on that front. It has been a much larger job than I was expecting to fix this particular problem. Let me bring you in and show you what the issue is. So I've pulled off this seal up here, because after I'd sealed everything else up, I found that this was really wet all the time when it had rained and for a few days after, so I knew this was holding on to water somehow. The other thing I was noticing is there's rust flakes inside the car, and every time I shut the tailgate there'll be more of them. So I knew roughly what to look for. So I knew this area here was wet, and then when you looked through from the outside, this area here particularly always took a very long time to dry out, and as you can see there's quite a bit of rust there, and this is apparently a fairly common thing with these Maestros. the seal on the rear glass fails, it gets in and then it gets stuck here, and this seal holds it in, and then instead of this seal helping, it hinders because it holds all the water against this area here, and it just gradually rots out the entire lip. I've caught this one fairly early, so I can seal this up. So I'm going to rust treat this, clean it back, clean all of this channel out properly so that's not got any rust in it. Put some rust treater on it and then fill it with sealant. It's not the right way is pull out the screen. It's then a case of doing the welding repairs that are required. Trouble with that is my welder's not working, as I mentioned before. I don't have a spare tailgate to put in the hole that would be left by taking this one out, and this is my everyday car. This is what I used to get about in. So bodging for now, will repair properly in the future when it's a bit easier for me to sort it out. Needs must. So let's crack on with this bit. Right, got us set up inside the car now. You can see a bit better. This is the really worst bit, and it's just all the layers are separating. There isn't a great deal we can do about this properly at the moment, so this is just a short-term measure. All I'm going to do is I'm using a steel wire brush rather than a brass one. A brass one's a bit soft for this. I just want to clean the loosest of the rust off here, and then we'll rust treat it and seal it. Just as I've been going, you can see at this end we've had no rain for 2 days, and as I've just been clearing out this bit here, that's actually, you know, quite wet. And that's the problem. This area is holding on to water too well, so even doing it this way, it still might leak afterwards. So we'll just have to see. I'll bring you back when I've done some more cleaning and broggling on this and show you how it looks afterwards. One cleanup later, we are back. The biggest problem with this is not just the missing metal, that's obvious. There is a double skin here, so this is your internal skin, and then the bit nearest the screen, that's like the outer face of the tailgate, if you like. And the water's got between the two layers, and that's what's causing the problem. And it looks like the way it's doing it is it's come through this rubber seal here, which has held it against this edge. As that's rotted away, capillary action has dragged it into this seam where it's sat, been unable to drain out, and then just rotted away. So the only way to have stopped this in the first place would have been stop the water coming into the car. Now I've got to just try and keep the water out. So before I can seal this up, I'm going to rust treat it just to try and stop this getting too much worse. But eventually I'll pull this screen out, and these are bonded in. If it wasn't a bonded screen, it'd be slightly easier because I could just pull it out and put it back in again, but because it's bonded, it's a bit more difficult because you have to cut the seal and all that sort of business. But eventually this will come out, this will have new steel put in, new windscreen, or the same windscreen sealed back in, and then we should be good. For now we are just going to use good old Kurust. Now I know opinions on Kurust vary quite a bit, but I don't have a problem with this stuff. I've used it for quite a while. But then again, I do accept its limitations. And I've just realised I didn't bring a separate tub out. That doesn't matter. So we're using, this isn't a advert, this is just what I'm using so you know, Kurust, which has been around for as long as at least I've been tinkering with cars. And a lot of people have problems with this stuff, with it not being as effective as they'd like. I know there are better products on the market. This is what I have, this is what I'm using. One of the reasons why Kurust doesn't work as well as you'd like it to is if you're using it straight out of the pot, it doesn't work properly because you're putting the thing that chemicals react with into the pot. So don't use it straight from the pot. Use the blister pack that it comes with as a little handy tray. Decant some into that, and then whatever's left over, throw it away. Don't pour it back into the pot. Then you'll find this stuff works better, lasts longer. The main reason I like this stuff is it's nice and thin. It goes, especially with a job like this, it goes into all the little nooks and crannies and gets everywhere I can't get in at the moment. I don't pour a huge amount out, just a bit. So let's blob this in. The other thing with this stuff is be fairly liberal with it. Don't be shy of it, because if you don't use enough, it's not going to work. It's not that expensive. So just, oh, and try not to get it on the screen like I just have. Luckily it comes off, so it's not a big deal. That's the last of the outside sealed up, and I went around earlier on, cleaned off the worst of the excess. I like to load a brush up and then use the same capillary action that's caused the rust to help pull this in. You can see when I blob it on, it just sort of soaks down. Gives you some idea of just how much water is getting in. This is also, it took me ages to find this, but this is also why it kept coming through the trim on tailgate, and I couldn't figure out why. And gone round and sealed all those other bits up, as you'll have seen in the other videos. And all along it was up here. But if I'd started here, I may not have addressed those other leaks. I may have just written it off as being a bad tailgate, so I am glad I did it the way I did. I can see some sealant that I put in from the other side, but I can also see the gaps. So hopefully sealing up from this side and finishing up sealing around the frame, we'll get this all fixed. I have been looking for a new tailgate and I haven't found one yet. I found cars being broken, but they're all the other end of the country and they don't really look like the tailgates on them are any better than this one, so it's just a case of waiting until one pops up, or until I've got the Princess back in good health again, and then I'll have a backup car, or the Lanchester's running. You know, for what I need, the Lanchester would be fine. The thing with old cars, sometimes it's nice to have a spare, if you can afford to, if you've got the space. It's not the buying of them that's the expense. It's all of this stuff, it's all the keeping on top. You already see that it's doing its job, it's changing colour, because you want it to go from the white that you first put on through like a purpley blue, and it should end up pretty much black, and that's when you know that it's done the conversion thing and sealed it up. And basically the whole point is it stops the reaction, so it just means that the iron in the steel can't react with the oxygen in the air and give the rust bugs food. Right, well, we'll leave that to dry and we'll come back to that to seal it up in a little bit. all the edges where it leaks out. The best thing about this Arbomast stuff is it never sets and it's not sticky, so when it's actually all cured you can just scrape it off, and that little residue there, I will give that a better clean when I've finished sealing this up, and it's not going to be difficult to remove. It will give a nice clean finish along this edge, and then hopefully this will stop leaking, fingers crossed. So the next thing, as you can see in here, this is pretty much dry now, so I'm going to just give it a double check and then we'll seal the inside of the tailgate. I'm going to have a look, see how the best way is to do that. So the main thing I've done in here is I've pulled this off a little bit further, and then I'm just going to run this along the inside and hope I don't make too much of a mess. Although it won't matter too badly because this is very easy to actually clean off if I do make a mess. I just really hope this works. There's quite a large gap on this edge here as well. Can't be helping. So this stuff all fills it up nicely. It's nice that this stuff doesn't smell. If this was silicone, I think my eyes would be watering. But it really doesn't have any odour. I'm probably putting too much on here as well, but I'd rather that, because of how easy this is to clean back, than not put enough on and have to redo it. And once the rubber trim's on, you won't see any of this anyway. I'm just trying to seal up all the gaps I can see. There we go. Just going to use a little bit of cardboard just to smooth this out. I haven't got any gloves, otherwise I'd use my finger. This is the next best thing. And I can clean this off the glass. It doesn't actually stick in the same way as, say, silicone does. You can just scrape it off with a credit card or library card, whatever. I did consider doing this with the tailgate open, but it's actually easier because of the angles. Let's do it with tailgate shut. Right, there we are. That's my little scraper thingy. Hopefully that will now stop leaking, fingers crossed, or at the very least not leak as much as it has been. Time will tell. It doesn't look it right now, but we had a lot of rain last night, proper driving against the house sort of thing, so it's as good an opportunity as any to see whether or not this is all nice and dry. Oh, would you look at that? Looks like we've finally cured that problem. Yeah, much happier with that. because the edge of the glass where the seal is, it's not really that mucky. I can tidy that up, no bother. So that's one of the biggest jobs on the car dealt with. Now we can move on to the other things. All done. Seal pushed back in place. So that should do the trick, I hope. It has been a big job sorting that out, and that's only a bodge, that's a temporary fix. So as usual, thank you for tuning in and seeing the latest updates on the Maestro, and for tagging along, leaving those comments, subscribing, which is always good and helps boost the channel a little bit. There's lots more to come with the Maestro. I've got headlining, door mirrors, exhaust, because I still haven't done that. I will, I promise. The whole point with the Maestro videos is going to be just keeping an old car running as an everyday car. I fortunately don't have to commute for work, so I can spend the time on these jobs, but hopefully these videos show that you can actually do quite a lot with not a lot, because that's what I'm having to do, that's what I've always done with cars. Anyway, that's us done for today, and hopefully I will see you in a future video. Bye for now.